records. Smell the cover, read all the verses. Tell me about your favorites on Vinyl and Vision.
Hello, thank you for tuning into the latest episode of Vinyl and Vision. This is episode 52 with my very special guest, Marc Calhoun. Marc is the singer of the band Department of Teleportation. I have their cassette EP release here in my hand. It's a very cool, funky blue cassette. For those of you who do not care for cassette tapes or can't listen to them, this is also obviously available digitally on Bandcamp, and their link will be provided in our show description page, so just go there and it'll be nice and easy for you. What you're listening to is actually a selection off of this EP called Slow Soft Wind. And if you tune into the end of the episode, you'll catch a very small portion of another song called Can We Leave Now? So, Marc is an amazing guest, amazing guy to speak with. I actually did not know him at all before this conversation happened, and I will go ahead and say he is a very good friend now. We had a great conversation. It was super fun. It was just great to get to know him a little bit, and we had a super great, funny conversation. We shared a lot of stories, a lot of kind of histories of each other, and fittingly for the album in which he chose, which was the Kinks Village Green Preservation Society. If you are not familiar with that record as of right now, I hope you enjoy the show and it kind of helps you get a little informed about it. But it's definitely one of my favorite albums. I love that band. And it was a great opportunity to kind of like do this nostalgia trip with Marc, and it was a lot of fun, very, very fun. So I want to get right to it because that's actually a little long because we just kind of shot the shit for so long. So by all means, please do all the things you do with the internet is what we ask here. Do all the liking, sharing, subscribing. All your friends, especially, share it with them if you like the show. I really appreciate it. I actually ran into a bunch of my friends this weekend, which was awesome, and most all of them had said how they've been listening and really enjoying it, and that's really appreciated, and it really means a lot to me. So thank you all for listening and doing all those things, and go find this band, okay? Go buy their music, just listen to it first if you want, preview it on Bandcamp, and then go see them live. They'll be playing at the News Cafe in Pawtucket on October 16th. And I was not able to find any details about that show yet. It's probably a little too early, but that's the next date as of now. So, without further ado, I gotta mention this. I am actually doing another in-person performance. I'm selling. Psychic Static is going to be set up at the Rock and Roll Yard Sale of Somerville this weekend, September 11th, from noon to 6. It's kind of a little short notice. I will be there with all my stuff, selling records fairly cheap actually, so come down and get a real good deal if you're in the Somerville area, or you're somewhere nearby, you can make the trip. And the Hammer Party is having their first show that day, and as far as I can see, it's going to be around 3:30. So I know it's short notice, but if anyone is listening and cares to see that band, it's going to be super exciting. I'm so glad to see that they are actually getting back to it. And so tell everyone you can, because it's only about 5 days left. By the time this comes out, 4 days. Thank you very much, guys. I hope to see you there. Enjoy the show. It's nice to meet you. I'm very surprised that I don't know who you are.
It's not surprising. I'm not anybody.
Well, I mean, because you're the singer of the band Department of Teleportation now, which just started 2020, I think, right?
Well, there were some permutations before that, but we basically got our steam going this year and recorded, and we were quite busy during COVID. That was kind of handy.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, it's nice to hear when some people made some good time of it. Made something out of it,
We just kept on practicing and, followed all the protocols. And then, there was this, perhaps the studio was more available then. I don't know, but it all worked out good.
That's right. Yeah. 'Cause you recorded at Machines with Magnets, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. It sounds great. I don't have my copy, but I did get a copy of your cassette.
Okay.
So I've been listening to it, and it's great. It's really great music. I know some of the guys in your band. I know Bobby and Scott and
Yeah.
Sven too. Actually, I'm sure I've met him in the past. So that's why I was saying I think it's really weird that I didn't meet you. I've never met you before.
Yeah, those guys have kind of been around longer than me, and I just was never really in bands with them. I met most of those guys, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, just through playing cards with through our friend Nova. That's how I met those guys. And
Yeah.
just over time, we've, yeah, but you know, they have much more, they have legacies.
This is like, here's a band made up of like, these veterans of the music scene for the most part, and what did you do any singing prior to this band?
Well, we were in another permutation of it called Folding Foreign Cars before that, and I've been in different bands before in my life. None of them were. The last band I was in before that, I guess, was probably this great band called Rectum Fly. Rectum Fly was an art thing where there were these rules. Every song had to be a different style. It had to say Rectum Fly once, and had to be conceived and written and basically recorded in roughly an hour. You couldn't like go back, and you could mix it later, but you couldn't add anything to it. So
Cool.
it's kind of crazy. It's based on that art Cobra. John Zorn used to do a version of it. It's like a impromptu kind of game exercise.
Sure, I get it. Yeah.
It's funny what limitations can do, because it just you only have 3 colors, so
Right.
you may not make a rainbow, but you probably make something pretty cool with those 3 colors.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's like, that concept, like a lot of the punks kind of had this concept. I don't know if there was an actual name or a term for it, but the idea that there was the uninformed, like the undereducated, musically speaking, kind of creating that art form and creating music and just kind of making stuff without really knowing anything technical.
Right.
They were still able to create like in their most pure form.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of I don't know, like impulse over energy. I can say just in my life, being in bands and writing songs and music, like some of the ones that I would deem halfway decent took as long to write as they do to listen to. They just those are great things. And you can, through limitations, you can kind of force yourself to get in that mindset maybe.
Yeah, no, I like it. I appreciate that. So I just want to say this right now is that, so I have people come on this show to talk about a influential record, and I want to get right into it with you only because the content of this record is very introspective as far as like, the writers of the music of this, on this album, Ray Davies, I'm speaking about, of the Kinks. We're doing the Kinks Village Green Preservation Society by your choice. It's a great record. I mean, I was so psyched to have you choose it because the Kinks are one of my favorite bands.
Yeah.
And I've only done one of their records so far. So this is a great opportunity.
What was the other record you did? I didn't see that one.
Arthur?
Oh, yeah. Close.
Yeah, very close. Very, actually. Yeah, there's actually there's some ties between this record and that. This one actually, chronologically speaking, came right before Arthur. Right. So it kind of seems like a really nice segue into what they did next, thinking about this record and thinking about that. This was also actually the first Kinks record I ever purchased.
Oh, wow.
So what is your experience with this record?
I knew the Kinks as a kid, just as a rock band, just from, I grew up in Kansas City, and while the Kinks did not take up as much airspace as I wished, like I still grew up hearing You Really Got Me and like those classics. They played those songs all the time. And then when I was older, I went back through, and kind of did the Kinks album by album, and then all the other songs that were like B-sides, which are just as good. And it went pretty much chronologically, and everything was great, especially once you get past about the second album. I mean, the first two are great, but then other things start happening. You know, you got Kind of Kinks, and then Face to Face, and Something Else.
Right.
But this one has a certain coherency to it. I think, though this happens on a lot of their records, I think the songs kind of speak to each other. You know, kind of as you go through the thing, intentional or not.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's a very thematic record. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we were talking about Arthur as well, kind of coming directly after this, and that was legitimately like the very, very first rock opera in its essence. And it could have, like, had they released it on time and it had not got pushed back, it would have actually come out before Tommy's The Who. I mean, sorry, The Who's Tommy, which would have in fact made it the first rock opera. But
that's the whole story of the Kinks, like a day late and a dollar short. Village Green came out the same day as the White Album too. I was recently reading.
Yes. Yeah. Far less sales, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Well, so wait, so what's your, okay, so you were going through the catalog, you know, you get turned on to the Kinks at around young teens, what?
I think I went on the deep dive probably in my late 20s.
Okay.
You know, I sort of knew those things peripherally through maybe early teen, mid-teen listening, but then when I got older, I like the idea of an album. I want to experience, you know, what you have concocted in order for me to listen to. So, you know, when you reach a point where you just kind of go back through, it almost makes a narrative, you know. Yeah.
You know, it's they very much like are you know, kind of parallel to the Beatles. I mean, a lot of people will make that comparison songwriting wise, but you know, in the form of a band, like the kind of transitions that bands go through and these metamorphoses, you always have like this early period. If it's a band that goes on, obviously for for at least a decade, you have their earlier stage, which, especially if dealing with classic rock, it's typically like this bubblegummy kind of like, you know, I don't know, immature rock music, exciting, punkish, you know.
It's manufactured for a purpose.
Yeah, they're looking for hits, they're looking to make hits, they're looking for hooks. And then they progress into this artistry of like, you know, writing songs, building these songs, like, you know, coming up with ideas, big ideas, concepts, you know, all this stuff. So I listened to the first 3 records, I think, and that was good. It felt good to get back into those songs and hear those full records again. Kind of palate cleansing almost, you know? And kind of like really show you where they came from before they came to this point in their career, which is only a few years away.
I think with the Beatles comparison, and I love them both, maybe the Kinks a little more just sonically, I don't know, but like where the Beatles would reach or push, you know, go to India, take drugs, do LSD, you know, expanded consciousness. Like Ray Davies never stopped writing about his family. Like he, you know, it's like the square blockage of wherever, Muswell, wherever area it is, like it just never left. And it's the thing that sort of gives it its strength, but you know,
and I think people will make that argument too when they're, you know, comparing the Beatles to the Kinks, is that they'll say that, well, Ray Davies is actually the far superior songwriter because he's made the same kind of progressions, he's written this, the same caliber of song, you know, back from the early hooky pop days to, you know, the later kind of artsy concept album thing, and he was a sole songwriter. I know that Dave Davies did some writing, but they wrote separately. They didn't really write together.
I think he'd give things to Dave too a lot.
Yeah, and I love Dave too. I like a lot of Dave songs, but you know, he didn't contribute as much as Ray did, obviously. So that's the other kind of positive factor about the Kinks, is that it was one sole writer as opposed to the John Paul duo, the combo. So he was writing at a disadvantage.
Yeah, he. I was reading that a lot of the first stuff he wrote for Village Green were were songs, were demos that, like he was saying, I'm paraphrasing, but basically they would have gone through a few more permutations before he presented them to the band. And in that permutation, a lot of times I think that they would get maybe sanitized, or you change somebody's name or something, you know what I mean? But he was saying that a few of the songs on that were straight. They never got like a second version. And so whenever I hear, you know, lines like "Fat Old Uncle Charlie boozing with his friends," you know, you think that probably was really an Uncle Charlie boozing with his friends.
Right. Yeah. No, he's very very personal, you know, in his writing. And this
have that.
No, yeah, not really. Not until afterwards. Like their solo careers, you know, John's solo careers, he gets way more in depth and personal. But yeah, the Beatles, it was all "I Want to Hold Your Hand" and like, you know, all that shit. So all that lovey-dovey crap, or the psychedelic stuff, you know.
Right.
So like I was saying, I'm not going to do the whole thing. I usually kind of speak to my guest for a long time and kind of get a backstory on you. But this, the way that this record flows, we're going to get into your history anyway. You said you had been in bands before. How many bands had you been in?
Well, before Rectum Fly, I was in some other kind of random bands, but there was a band when I was younger, very younger. I was in a band called Saint Monday, and this was in the Midwest where I lived, and we were like regionally popular, you know. We would like tour around. So I mean, we weren't like famous by any stretch of the imagination, but it was
a working band.
Like the dudes in my band, I've spent summers in a van, you know, with dudes sweating it out, and so we certainly kind of share that you know, that part of it for sure.
Right. So you got the chops. That's what it really comes down to. Yeah. Because I just didn't know. I didn't know if you were just some like random dude that they happen to know, that they were like, oh well, he has some words, and you jump on the mic, and next thing you know, you're singing with the band.
It's a fairly organic process, and I don't.
And plus, it's your history. I just like, you know, because it always surprises me. Like there's always like another band before the band that everybody knows type thing. Yeah. You know, you have to get your sea legs somewhere. So that's kind of why I had to ask. I just didn't know, and I guess it's probably because you weren't from here originally.
No, I grew up in the Midwest and then lived in Seattle for about 9 or 10 years, and then moved out here. I've lived here for about 20 years, though. I really big Providence, big Rhode Island fan.
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree with you. I'm in the same boat. I like it here. So we already said the record you chose for tonight is the Kinks' Village Green Preservation Society, released in 1968. The UK in November, and in the US in January 1969. You want to get right into it?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's start off with that first. The title opening track.
Let's do it.
I just realized something.
What?
If you want to write a hit song, you should have half of a chorus within the 30-second mark.
Right. Well, it just helps if half of it's just the same four bar repeat too, you know, with all the super cool words, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good opening hook, you know. The verse is great. It's catchy.
Yeah.
Such complex rhyming scheme, like all these like really weird words to like rhyme together, and he actually made it happen.
Yeah, and then like the 12th time you figure out, you know, you figure out what half those words are, you know, or who, you know, Moriarty was the professor in Sherlock Holmes. There's a couple things he throws together too that I've always wanted to use as band names. One of them is I'd have to have the Skyscraper Affinity one. We are the Skyscraper Condemnation Affinity.
Condemnation Affinity. Yeah, right.
It sounds like some serious organ, but I guess I am in a band called Department of Teleportation, so that sort of thing would appeal to me.
Yeah. No, they're great phrases he has in this song. So like I was saying, how this is going to be such an introverted kind of like or revealing conversation because the album itself is very revealing. So, so yeah, the Village Green is essentially Ray Davies reminiscing about where he grew up and his childhood memories. And so all of those, so those things will keep on playing out throughout this record as we go through it. But that leads me to wonder, like, what are some of your memories of where you grew up?
Well, they're pretty. I had a very unique upbringing, and I have really good memories of my upbringing. I was
This was in
kind
Kansas
of
City, you said?
yeah, it's a place called Lee Summit. It's one of the millions of Kansas City suburbs where I grew up, and yeah, I was the pretty much. I was born in '72, so I'm pretty much the last of like that sort of untethered generation, you know. So I pretty much roamed woods, like rode my bike everywhere, you know. It was,
Have to be home as the lights go on, right? Something like that.
and I, you know, my mom worked a good, she was around most of the time and everything was good. But, you know, I was by myself a lot and just had a ton of authority or autonomy really to just go, you know, you're in a safe neighborhood and it was good. I mean, that's, I think what speaks to me about, there's a kind of, what's the word, bucolicness of everyone's, like, as long as you didn't have like a bad childhood, I think you have a fairly, you know, semi-magical remembrance of growing up, you know, because things aren't fully formed.
Especially those years, you know, like the 70s and 80s, like all those two generations, like, yeah, probably pretty progressive freedom to just basically do anything. It was everything basically before technology hit. It was you know, that's all you had was hanging out with your friends and going outside. That was it.
And it's only now that we like even apply freedom to it. It's like there was no other choice, you know, like you're just going to go wander. You're little nomads. I feel lucky in hindsight, you know?
Yeah, I know. No, I agree with you. I mean, I'm only a little younger than you. I was born in '80. But it was the same thing for me basically too. And so geographically speaking, what was your neighborhood like?
It was just pretty much rows of houses, but we were early ones in there, so there were only like two circles of houses and tons of woods. And that, of course, over the last 40 years, that, you know, ratio has completely inverted itself. But it's the Midwest. I mean, it's pretty in its own way, but you kind of have to be there for a while. It's really hot in the summer, so we would go out at night a lot because it was just a lot cooler. There's some nice things there. It's pretty in certain parts, but the heat is rather oppressive. I think most people that go there in the summer come back and they're like, "Oh, you didn't tell me it was like Florida."
Which Kansas City? Yeah, which Kansas City is that?
Missouri. It's the Missouri side.
Okay, all right.
Misery side.
Yeah. Wait, so is that the same?
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Is that the same Kansas City as the other Providence immigrants? The like Pat Crump and
Yep. Me and Pat Crump were just towns away.
Oh, really?
I knew Pat. We used to play the band, actually, St. Monday, I think, back. It was that far back. We were in high school when we first started. And I remember playing with Pat Crump was in this fantastic band called, I believe they're called The Taking of Pelham 1-2-3 after the movie. Right. And they were, you know, mathy and I don't remember exactly what they were like, but I remember they were fantastic. And that was, I remember being at the first time I ran into Pat Crump up here, you know, just it was a super pleasant surprise of all the people I didn't sort of expect to see. That's
great, man. Cool. So then we're gonna move on. We'll go on to Do You Remember Walter?
Ooh, yeah.
Structurally, the song is not as tight as the first one.
No, it's kind of. I read it in a little book I was reading that the drummer Avery and Pete Quaife both said that I think like Ray was having a tough time, and they said that the arrangements, the actual band arrangements on Village Green, are their favorites because they're really loose and they kind of got to play the way they wanted to because Ray was paying attention to other things, sort of. But like that one particularly, it's kind of like there's little parts where it's kind of just barely there, or you're not sure if it's gonna maintain that frantic little dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting song. You know, like listening to these first two songs so far, like I keep on saying in my mind, is like, this was made in 68.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you know, the British invasion, I guess, has kind of started at this point. Like you had already said, I mean, the Beatles' White Album was released on the same day as this. And thinking about the Beatles, because it always happens, right? When you're talking about the Kinks, the Beatles are inevitably brought up. But kind of the same, because the Beatles always had that ability to kind of like Ringo Starr was kind of like very innovative for drummers, you know, because he came up with these beats that was just like, wow, that's 68. Like, how did these guys come up with these beats, you know? Yeah. It's very strange. So I think Mick Avery is the same.
Yeah.
So as far as I know, Walter is a real person from Ray Davies' past who kind of faded away.
Right.
Do you have a Walter?
Well, there's a lot of, it's funny. I'm still in fairly close contact with most of the people that I was friends with when I was younger. So I kind of, I have lots of Walters, but sort of without I remember reading, there's one Ray Davies interview where he talks about meeting the Walter character and meeting him and like sort of caustically realizing that, well, we didn't have anything in common. So that was it. We just went home, you know? And it's like, I don't have that experience with those people. The fact that I've known them that long is one of the funner things about,
right. You know, how much do you relate to when you're not a rock star, you know?
Yeah. And like,
I don't have the lyrics in front of me. But yeah, it's very much like, you know, Ray has lost touch with him. Like they just don't have anything in common anymore. But I mean, he thinks about him fondly as far as it's like, he was the coolest. He was the greatest guy, you know, at the time. Like he was the one, like, you know, getting the girls and smoking cigarettes, looking so cool.
Yeah. But then he gets to, but what is it? Now you're fat and married and you're always home at 8:30 or something. Like he gets kind of mean. He gets, that meanness is not evident upon the first couple airings, I think. Yeah.
But I can relate, you know, I mean, like, we don't live the rock and roll lifestyle anymore. Now, I mean, I'm not fat, but I got a little thing. And I'm married and I have kids, and so I don't go out. And when I go out, I'm just like, I'd really love to be in bed by like 10. That'd be great.
Oh, yeah. You think we're excited about our 6:30 showtime?
I'm ecstatic. I was just like, that's perfect. I have just enough time to like get a very small buzz and then get home and get into bed.
Yeah. You know about compacted time. I feel you. Yeah.
Yeah, because I either slip in the opposite direction, like, because if I go too long, it's like, okay, now I'm getting that third drink and now I'm like in full on party mode and I'm like, something bad's bound to happen.
Yeah. Shut down tomorrow. Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah.
So got to be very careful in our old age.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to Picture Book. Again, 30-second mark.
Yeah.
Just in the middle of the chorus.
And you've already heard everything you need to know to sing along for the next like 38 seconds, which is really amazing. I mean, because not only are you writing this, you're making it so it sticks in my brain. There's sound too, particularly on that song. Like the way it's recorded is like the drums are very loud and carrying most of the motion of the song. Other than that, it's just kind of some clippy, almost country-ish guitars. They're almost like English country, or just they're so uniquely their own style, like shuffle, skiffle. I don't know.
Dance Hall too. That was actually a big influence on them. Comes through a lot in Arthur, but you can hear some of that on this record as well. They're so complex though. Like, so I was actually watching a documentary about not the making of this record, but this record, and historically speaking about it. Yeah. And they were like, Ray is such an amazing songwriter because, like, see, I'm not a complicated musician. I don't a complex musician. I don't know anything about theory, or I can't read music, nothing like that. Okay. So to to hear about anyone that does like multiple key changes within a song, I'm always just like, what the fuck are you doing? I don't. You lost me. It sounds amazing. I see that it's great. I mean, I know this is great, good music, but I don't know what you're doing. But if you thought about this and you did this consciously, that's a pretty great feat.
Right.
You know,
I think he's 28. Is that right?
Probably. I'm not sure.
He wrote Village Green, something like that. Like, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, like, and think of like think of the crazy shit they made concepts albums, and he's making one about the two biggest things in the world, time and memory. You know, like at 28, he was probably not a lot of fun to be around sometimes. I could I could sort of imagine the.
He still seems that way from the interviews I've seen him. It's like he doesn't sound like any fun. Like he would be amazing to like, you know, pick his brain, of course, but like doesn't sound like a lot of fun.
No, he'd probably be mean.
Yeah, or misunderstood is what is his problem.
Yeah. But I was thinking today actually that they're very much like the Fall. Like I can identify a Kinks song in a few seconds just by like how it sounds, just almost almost the energy of it, and you always know it's them, you know. Right. Even if it's those later, like I'm not really big into the 70s records, but like they still sound like the Kinks. I will say that. Yeah,
no, that's true. I mean, I am also, I kind of drop off after Lola.
Okay, I go to Muswell. That's the first RCA one. That one's pretty good.
Yeah, I got to give that one a shot, and I have to give the Preservation volumes a shot too, especially because those two records actually do pertain to this record. So I now have to kind of make the connection, and I've been meaning to. So we were talking about Picture Book.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Quite all right. Do you have an old family album?
I have bits and pieces. I have some Polaroids, and we have a family hard drive that when we dump pictures off the phone every couple years, we transfer those to the hard drive. Right. I try to comb through and delete things every time I do that, you know, just to get it down.
Oh yeah.
But we don't. And then I still, believe it or not, for my Midwest family, I go through all my pictures for the year and I print off, I don't know, like 100, you know, actual pictures at Walgreens, and send them to like my parents or my aunts and uncles, you know, because that's all. Yeah, that's all anybody wants is pictures of the kids, you know. So like we're still semi. Yeah, and we hang on to a couple of those, stick them on the fridge, you know. Maybe we have a couple. Right. We have frames. Each kid, whenever they get a new school picture, we jam it in the frame. So when people come over, they don't think we're psychos or whatever.
It's like, is that even your kid? That's the same picture that you bought the frame with, right? You got some weird family.
Your child X. Like I have trouble managing my real life, and now we're talking about my digital life, and it's.
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. There is a beauty to the simplicity of the way things used to be, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of like what this song is really all about. It's the whole album really is just so nostalgia.
Yeah.
Well, now that I said that, I mean, because now it gets me thinking. I wanted to ask you, and I don't think I've ever asked anybody this. Why did you choose this record?
Because it's like, I mean, you can't ever pick one, right? But I mean, this has been consistent top 5.
Yeah,
for a long time, and I thought about a couple others. Like, you know, I watched some of them, and I didn't know how I didn't know how personal you were going to get, and so I figured. I figured more than some of the other ones that I thought to talk about. Like what we're doing right now, like this can kind of go so many places because the shit he's talking about is huge and.
Completely relevant.
Yeah, it's like that great Faces song, "Ooh La La," wish that I knew what I know now. Oh, yeah. That song does a cool thing that this kind of does too, where like it starts on one perspective, dear old granddad, I laughed at all his words, and then it stops on dear old grandson, you know, and it changes that perspective. And it's actually, I haven't thought about it a lot till just talking with you here, is that like there's I've listened to Village Green enough that I can identify it at different points in my life and responding to bits of it the same, but other bits of it differently, you know. I
Right.
think that's kind of what you were referencing before.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it sounds about right. I'm kind of coming to some revelations speaking to you about this record right now too. I mean, like obviously I've been doing the listening, I've been doing the research, more so than I've ever done before. Even though this is the first record that kind of opened up the door for me to the Kinks.
Yeah,
And I've loved it then. I still love it now. But there's something about doing this type of research with a record that really kind of makes you think about it in a different way, you know?
and and at every point, it actually seems more impressive to me. I mean, it was already pretty damn impressive, you know, but like it just little things like about the plane or how they did things, or all the other songs that they didn't put on here that are, you know, recorded around that time too, you know,
Right.
like
All right, let's move on to Last of the Steam Powered Trains.
it's lovely.
That's the best part of that song, I think. I mean, just the way they get into that, just
They start
building it up.
Yeah, they start so slow. Yeah, you forget how slow they start that song.
Mm-hmm. And if we continued on a little further, we would notice like they haven't gotten that out of their system yet. They're still moving a little fast.
Yeah,
A little bit.
right.
Yeah,
But
it's beautiful.
Probably one or two takes, I bet. It certainly doesn't sound over rehearsed, that's for sure. It sounds like they did some of that when it was happening, you know.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, technology back then too. I mean, they didn't have the luxury to just kind of like piece things together or do punch-ins a lot.
Right.
Like, you know, the very minimal overdubbing. So they really had to kind of be in a room together and do these songs.
Right.
So, I mean, that's just a really great, intense part to one of the songs.
It's neat too because it's I mean, there's a lot of this packed in there, but it's a blues. It's a straight blues song that I think any British band would play of that era would play a slightly different way. Like it still sounds kind of frenetic, and again, the part you played was a fantastic example of that. Of like they can't just not be the Kinks and play it in this sort of weird kink way, you know?
Yeah,
because it's not. It doesn't have that. I'm going to say my own opinion here. It doesn't have that fake swagger that so much of that British blues scene had. You know, it was.
Right.
It's.
Yeah.
I'm not.
They had
their own version.
They had an ability to get down and dirty, and I think that Dave Davies was the kind of like the little secret trick to the band.
Yeah.
Because he was the one that kind of came up with that original guitar sound that you know, really pushed them over the top with "You Really Got Me."
The speaker
you know?
slash. You know?
Yeah, slashing his speaker cones to get that kind of natural distortion. Because they didn't have it at the time. They didn't have that type of technology where they were able to just like, oh, let me buy a pedal and I'm going to try this effects pedal. And no, he was looking for a tone. He was looking to get edgy and kind of like abrasive, and didn't know how to do it. Just kind of thought, oh, what if I cut the cone and see what that sounds like? You know, can't make it any worse than it already is.
I think you're right, because his guitar sounds on the Dave songs are really all over the place.
Nice.
You know,
Big
could
Sky.
almost be a nursery rhyme.
Yeah.
It's again a very strange song. You know. That weird little I don't know if it's a guitar or if it's Nicky Hopkins playing the mellotron or whatever, you know, where it goes down and then when the verse actually kicks in, it just keeps going through the whole thing, that high little and then that's
yeah. Oh, I don't know actually. That's a good observation. That's possible.
It's a weird sound. It sounds like someone would do it and then think, oh, we should wipe that off the track and go back, you know, like they kept it. Well,
this is one of those things where this is a really strange composition for them. You know, there's a couple of like really weird elements in here that they didn't necessarily ever really do before.
Right.
It's a kind of this weird ballad thing. Like it's kind of slow, like it's a rock song, but it's not of the same tempo as the other songs. And then there's Ray coming in with this vocal, which is more of like a spoken thing. It's not singing.
Right.
It's weird, and there's a big concept going on in this song, which also doesn't necessarily pertain to the theme of the record.
No, it's too wide. Yeah, it's too. Yeah. It's a power is a 10, and it jumped up too high, too quick, I think.
Yeah, or fell too low, too quick.
Right.
One of the whichever way you want to look at it. But so this song is most likely an observation of a deity or otherworldly being in the sky. Okay.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts of beings in the sky?
Oh, it sounds about as believable as QAnon to me. It's not really. They seem. I don't know. Religion and the stuff today. I grew up in a very religious place. A lot of fundamental Christians around, and I see a lot of these ideologies are just repeating. You know, I mean, yeah, sure. I'm sure that there's probably aliens, but if they have any smarts whatsoever, they have visited and gone home. I don't think. The flood and fire world is really gonna appeal to them, but I'm not overtly religious anymore. I think people should be nice to each other, and the people that I see being the meanest often call themselves Christians or something. So it's like the equation's broken to me. That's probably pretty deep. What about you?
I don't really believe in a standard religion. I do like the idea of aliens. I don't like to be too obsessed with anything. I don't like the idea of conspiracy. I really don't. I hate conspiracy because it's just so. It's just so maddening. Yeah, I mean, it never ends. Right, it's never going to end. Absolutely, and then
respawning.
I like things to be apparent. I like to rely on the sun is going to rise in the morning. Okay, I can praise the sun because I know it's coming up in the morning and I can see it. Okay, true. Same thing with the moon. I mean, I may not see it every night, but I know it's there and it comes around.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I love the idea. The idea of someone looking over us and something like that. And when it comes to death, it sounds appealing because just all I have to say is God bless before I pass away, and I can get a free pass into the gates.
Yeah.
Okay, I can try that.
that one stops me there because you know what? The serial killer can do the same thing, and I don't want to hang out with those assholes. So I'm
right.
Let's go move to a different cosmology. Thank you.
Right. Yeah. Whatever. It's very strange. I mean, hey. Who knows? It really is perplexing. It's a little frightening for me. If there had to be a choice of is there something that's going to prove itself to be a reality? I would want it to be aliens. I wouldn't want Jesus to come down and say, "You're wrong. I'm here."
Right. Really? Is that? Yeah. That's. Oh my God.
I'd really prefer it to be aliens. Next, we're going to be doing Sitting by the Riverside. Let's get into this.
Here's my note. I have one note written next to this. I don't have many notes at all, but next to that, I have psychedelic fishing nightmare.
Really?
That's how I see this song.
I'm not a fisherman. Why is it a psychedelic fishing nightmare?
Well, when he's talking about sitting by the riverside, I just assume they're probably there fishing, or I don't know if there's an explicit fishing reference. Once there's a lot that song. I know the first couple lines, and then that crazy sound comes in, and then I'm not sure exactly what happens, and that's why I think it's a psychedelic fishing nightmare song.
I don't remember. Let me see. I actually might be able to pull up the lyrics real quick.
I also think two things I'll point out while you're pulling that up is I think that's one of the songs. Did you hear that there's a high harmony voice that's going through most of the singing too? That's actually his wife, I think, Rasa. She sang backing vocals on a lot of them, and I think you can hear it in that one because Dave's usually not in the full she has more breath than Dave, I think, and can cover like the whole line, whereas Dave just adds stuff in. I think that's her on that, but that's speculation on my part.
Oh, okay. No, actually, I did. I think I saw her credit, and I knew I heard about. She was kind of like hidden away.
Yeah,
she was kind of like John Lennon's first wife.
Oh yeah,
because they were because they were in a band, they couldn't have this. They needed the image of being single men to be more desirable to their female fan base, I guess.
Boring public, yeah.
Yeah. You have to know you can fuck the band. I mean, what's the point? You're not going to go see them if you can't fuck them.
What's the point?
Right. It's just like, if I don't have a chance with these guys, I'm not going to go see them. Not that women think that way.
I thought we were doing bad with the blasphemy.
No, we're gonna touch all the bases here.
Oh boy, on that one. But I bet that there's a arc, more of an arc in there, maybe other things.
And I think that there is, and I think the perfect little timing and segue there, because the next song is Starstruck.
Oh yeah.
And I want to play a little bit of that, and then I'll explain to you exactly how they tie in together.
Cool.
There's always a moment in a Kinks record where you can kind of just like wave your hands and kind of sing along.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They teach it to you.
Yeah, that's not the connection I was making. I wanted to make. It's that the Village Green and this song Starstruck both deal with a concept of fame. Because in Village Green, Ray is singing about how he had loved this woman from the Village Green, and he decided to chose his path to follow fame, and lost her. Starstruck is kind of more on the nose as far as like dealing with the fame, like his kind of, he has this new popularity, and whoever is the existing love interest is kind of like obsessed with it, and he kind of, I don't know, I guess it seems that he kind of isn't as absorbed by the whole phenomenon of this fame that the person he's with is kind of dealing with, which is hence Starstruck. So have you ever been starstruck before?
Yeah. No. You mean,
like, have you met someone famous that you really kind of like blew your mind?
Yeah, I met Ice-T one time.
Oh yeah.
I'll never forget. He signed. I was wearing a baseball cap at the time, and I remember I took it off. It was at one of the Lollapaloozas, and someone had given me a backstage pass, which I kept using and giving to my friends to go back and eat because it was all day. And I literally was just hanging out. I was just like backstage, like just hanging out by this bus. And this guy comes out and we start talking. And the guy who I start talking to, his name is Moose Man. And he's unfortunately passed on, but he was the bass player for Body Count. Oh. So we're just talking, I was not particularly starstruck by him. We were just talking like two people talk. And he said, "Oh, Body Count. Yeah, I'm going to watch you guys play. I know you. That's great." And he said, "Would you like to meet Ice-T? He's in the bus." And I said, "Oh, yeah. And they had a bus and he opened the door and we walked up and like at the first area, it was like a table, and Ice-T was there, and there were like two chicks on either side of him, and he looked up and he had a pin, and I said, "Oh, because I wasn't gonna like, bust up his groove or anything, obviously,
Yeah.
I remember I had off, and I said, would you mind signing my hat real quick, Ice-T?" He said, "Oh, no problem." And he took it and he said, I'll never forget, he said, "What's your name?" Which he didn't write on there, but I said, "My name is Marc." And he said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I said, it took me by surprise. I said, "I have no fucking idea, And he said, "I'm just glad you didn't say cop." And then he handed me the hat back. And I was just like, oh my God. And that was like the cop killer thing, I think the cops were there, it's a big deal. But yeah, that was,
that was on that was around that time when Cop Killer first came out. Because that was like when Body Count was on the Lollapalooza, that was like 92 or something. That was just like one of the first Lollapalooza tours.
Right. They wouldn't let him play. They had cops around and shit. Like, yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, he went through some shit. But let's go to All My Friends Were There.
One of my faves.
Getting into that chorus, it makes it seem like it was a good situation.
Yeah.
Like, and all of my friends were there, and all of their best friends too.
that line makes me smile inside, because it's one thing to be friends with someone, but it takes a little, I mean, sometimes it doesn't work, obviously, but like it takes a little extra to be like, I want to know my friend's friends because they're friends with my friend, not because I really want more friends. I just like that they have a different orbit than I have with this person, and it's just neat to see.
And it's good people. It's always better when it's like good people. It's like you hang out with good people, you're a good person too. Like that's great.
Yeah. Dude. And it's so celebratory when it hits that chorus. And the first part is it's like fucked up circus music or something,
Right.
Boom, 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 boom.
Exactly. And then that really is the essence of the song, because lyrically speaking, he's speaking of embarrassing moments.
Right.
And how he ties it into this like beautiful chorus that's like just so, like kind of crashing waves beauty of like all of my friends are there and all of their best friends too, and it's just so, it sounds beautiful, but like you were so clunky and miserable up to that moment.
Right. Right.
So it's a great little ditty about embarrassment is what I know. So I know the band is new.
Yeah.
But especially if you were in bands in the past, which you've told me about since, have you had any embarrassing moments performance-wise?
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody does. I wouldn't want to be in a band with someone who maybe hasn't had a couple. Like you want to make sure that it's knowing what to do and what not to do are real important.
Right. Well, because Department of Teleportation is so new, and you guys haven't been able to gig, too much yet. No,
just a couple. But I know that the band I was in when I was a kid, we played a show. We played a terrible. We shouldn't have played the show. It was a Christmas Eve show in Wichita, and there were like 7 people there. It was in the Midwest, but that was the one show that someone ran up and flashed us. Some women flashed us at that show, and I was turned around messing with my amp.
So you missed it.
So I was embarrassed that I missed like the most rock and roll thing that probably ever happened.
Yeah, but hey, at least it didn't happen to you. I mean, like, yeah, you missed a cool experience, but
yeah,
hey, there's more boobs in the world. It's not really that big of a deal. We've all seen them at this point.
I mean, yeah, seemed like a big deal at the time.
Right.
Yourself?
Well, have you ever signed a boob?
No, no, I don't.
I've signed a boob.
You signed a boob?
Yeah, and the worst part about that, and this isn't really embarrassing. I mean, like, I kind of blush thinking about it, but I was I played this really big show in Providence, and we opened up for this radio band. So it was a massive crowd. It was one of those BRU free shows in the summer, the concert series. But it was at India Point Park, so there was thousands of people like lined like in the audience. There's a huge crowd. And so the show's over, and so we're on a table right next to the famous band, and there's a line of people like waiting to meet them and like have them do autographs and stuff like that. And so the line is kind of like poured over to our table, and people are like, saying we did a great job and all that stuff, and they're buying our merch, which is great. But these 2 women, one of them is young and like totally hot. There's no other way to say this. She's like this like perfect like thing. And there's this other woman that she's with, which is like the older version of her.
Okay.
But so they both come up to our table, and they're talking to all of us, my whole band, and they ask us to sign their body. So the young girl comes up to me, and she doesn't pull it out, but she's like wearing like this like weird like lingerie bustier thing. So she's like, "Can you just sign my boob?" And the girl I'm dating at the time is standing right next to me.
Oh my God.
So I hold the Sharpie like at the farthest point in my hand that I can, and I'm just like, that's great. Here, thank you very much. Like, all this shit, and just totally not taking advantage of the opportunity.
And never wash yourself.
Right. And those girls went on to go talk to their famous band and get on their tour bus.
Oh yeah. You were the warm up.
Yeah. I just like thinking that those guys may have been doing God knows what, but seeing my name written on this woman's breast.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Local flavor.
So that wasn't embarrassing, but that was a good story for sure.
Good story. Yeah. Wow.
All right. So that leads us to the last song of the album is "People Take Pictures of Each Other." So
Right.
let's get into that one a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little too long there before it gets into the chorus. So.
No, I like that you at least kept the "Don't show me no more, please." I think it's interesting that line gets amended in there real quick. Just sort of like one little minor caustic blast in there from otherwise just making it a nice song about sort of the existential lure of photography itself. It's great. I actually have a quote to read about that song from Roland Barthes from Camera Lucidity. Listen to this. It says. Okay. What the photograph reproduces to infinity has occurred only once. The photograph mechanically repeats what could never be repeated existentially. But I think that's about the thing about, and people far eloquent than me have written about, the photograph as repeatable memory, as one tract of a moving memory and all these different things. But Ray really nails it down. I mean, you can. I don't understand semiotics exactly. It seems like a really long way to say something really simple, but I think another long way to say the simple thing is pictures take people. People take pictures of each other to prove that they really existed. I mean,
yeah,
it's just boiled down so nicely.
Huh. Oh, excuse me one second. I think that's interesting because, okay, so that pertains to kind of what I was going to talk to you about this song, and I did not think of it in that way, and I did not know that quote. But, so this song has a similar trope to Picture Book, but I think it deals more closely with an idea of relevance.
Yeah.
So my question for you in closing tonight is, what's your take on reality?
Overrated as of late, that's for sure. I don't know. That's quite a heavy question.
Well, because like you're saying, kind of taking that quote that you mentioned into perspective. So what we're thinking is that we take photographs in order to kind of capture a moment in our memory that our memory will distort to a point. Right. Like the photograph is the most pure way to make that memory a reality in our minds.
But it can't stop the distortion of it in a way either, because even the picture of my uncle's car, I remember most of what I did in it, but probably not all of it, and I'll put a little bit in there. I mean, not consciously lying, just the mix of memory.
Just because your brain doesn't work that way. Your brain's not photographic.
Yeah. So it's like it's still. I like the idea that even though a photograph is a snapped, representational object, it's still not neutral. In a way, because of what you're going to put on it or bring to it, or.
Sure.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. But so how does this pertain to what you think about reality?
Well, I think that the interwebs have made reality a little more, have provided, like if we take this sort of photo analogy out one more, just to sort of just mess with how messed up reality is, like I think the internet has created another alternate side by side reality in a lot of ways and I feel a lot of people spend their life living between the two, between what they think they're implied online. Like imagine if you tried to live up to your online self, or if you tried to actually be that thing.
I'm doing that right now, dude. You can't put me under that spotlight.
I just mean, my point is that I think reality is getting a lot more skewed because of people's currency with technology. I think it's
right.
Not a good thing at the end of the day.
We have no consequences for our actions online?
Right, exactly.
Because we have no consequences, because we face no consequences, you can speak kind of in a way that you would not normally be. You behave in a way that you would not normally behave in.
Right. This you thank you very you I think I can say this to bring what I'm saying together is that like for what you're saying, like I have people who I know who are like, they tell me about some argument they got in with someone in the comment section of some electronic thing, you know, and I have to stop and I say, that's not conversation, because it's not conversation. Involves this active thing of you and me, you know, I'm reading cues, blah, 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 blah. Right. But if I can stop and think, let me think of the cutest ass thing I can say, or, you know, tell you to go screw yourself in Russian or whatever. Like, right. It's not, it's a surrogate. I think the internet makes surrogate for realities, and that's bad for overall reality. How about that?
Okay. No, I absolutely get that, because how many times have you been in a situation where someone says something to you and it could be positive, it could be negative. Whatever it was they said to you, you think about that moment way after the fact, you know, later on that night or something, and you're like, fuck, I could have said that to them. Yeah. But now you can, because now you can wait all that time, or you can just keep on thinking about it while it's there in front of you and be like, oh, I got the perfect fucking thing to say to you, you piece of shit. Right. Yeah. No, I understand completely what you're saying.
But it's great to think of the zinger then and not 5 minutes later, you know?
Of course, yeah. Well, let's see what happens in the comment sections of this, you know, after it gets posted. So these guys have been saying some really off-color shit.
The religions, the ladies, everybody.
So, speaking of the quick wit and being able to kind of like, you know, spout off some things like in a good, fashionable manner, being the front man of a band, you're playing on Sunday. This is not going to be out in time for that show. Do you have another show coming up?
Yes, we're playing at the News Cafe in October.
Ooh,
let me check my electro in Pawtucket. I love that place. I believe it's the 16th. Yes. October 16th, we are playing. The Department of Teleportation is playing at the News Cafe.
Cool.
In lovely downtown Pawtucket.
That's a great spot.
I don't remember who we're playing with. I just have it on my calendar. So,
well, by the time I have this ready to be promoted and distributed, I should find out who's on that bill, and I will let everybody know.
Yeah, right on.
In case there's a more famous band that's on the bill that everyone wants to go see.
There probably will be. That's what we're hoping for.
Yeah. But you guys have been doing pretty good. I mean, you know, for a new band, I mean, like, you guys started up, like, I know that you got you know, the pandemic kind of fucked everything up for you guys, but, you know, you were able to record a 6-song demo EP, which is available on cassette and digital, of course, because everyone needs that, which is available on Bandcamp. What's the plan? Like, what do you guys have in store now at this point?
We had so much fun, and Seth at Machines and Magnets is so great. We keep as soon as we're done, we've been writing new songs, so we're just gonna keep on recording stuff, and you know, play around. But right now it's funny, sometimes after you record, like you've got it out of your system and you can go back and just like start. It's fun to work on new stuff after you've kind of laid something out, you know. It feels forward, or
you get the energy. You're like, that was good. Yeah. Want to make something just as good.
Yeah, this is a I mean, for me personally, it's a great band. We work really well. You know, you too have probably been in a lot of bands where you just sort of da it all along, you know, and you know, we go oh this time, and we go bo this time, but like that shit's getting a lot quicker. I think it's just because we're all older and we just, you know,
you guys know how to do it.
Everyone get this stuff. We ain't got a lot of free time.
You guys are professionals. You know how it goes now.
Real loud, real fast, you know, boom, bang, boom, we're in, we're out.
There you go. Sounds good.
Oh,
sound like a good date.
Yeah. Cheap one.
Yeah.
All right.
We're hitting all the marks tonight. Just telling you.
Well, I hope to see you there. Come say hi. I will have extra earplugs whenever you come see us, I always bring extra. We're a little loud.
Well, hey, it's been a pleasure talking with you, really. I mean, like, this has been so much fun.
Yeah.
I knew it
I
from
know.
texting you. I was just like, this Marc will be fun. I don't know him, but he'll be fun.
This is. I mean, like, what? Like, how often do I get to talk about the favorite record? You know, you obviously know your shit. You know, you got a lot of these done. It's pretty impressive.
Thank you. I mean,
I'm impressed for what it's worth. And you know what? You know what's most impressive? You didn't tell me you're doing this. You got a whole bunch of them online. You did it. That's like I'm a big. I like doing. I like it when you can say, here they. You don't say I'm going to do a radio show. You say, here's my page with my shows. Go look at them. Like that's
right.
the way.
Well, that's how it goes. You know, I mean, like as soon as you start something, you keep at it, and you end up with a discography. You end up with this catalog, this whole thing behind you that you can share with people. And I mean, I've been pretty fortunate. I've been pretty happy with it overall. Speaking to my friend David last time I was doing this, I was like, he kind of committed me on the same thing, and I was just like, yeah, I mean, I could have quit the first day, and like I kind of told myself I should. there's still times where it's just like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, why am I going to bother? But there's nothing you can achieve unless you try. Right. And that sounds very cliche, but at the same time, I mean, I completely agree with that, like 100%. I mean, it's nothing will come of nothing. If you don't attempt something, then you can't achieve anything. So, and it's the same thing as being in a band. I mean, like that's what I attribute it to. Is that like I know what it's like to be in a band. I don't have a band now, but at least I'm doing something, and I'm doing something musically. It's doing something with people that are musical, most likely, that I enjoy, that has something to do with music. I get to listen to records and research it, which is something I've never really done before. Yeah. So it's fun. I mean, this is just a great opportunity to speak to people that dig music too, and kind of like pick their brains about it.
Well, again, you have output, so that proves that it's real. So that's great.
It's like a picture.
Bum, 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 bum.
Well, hey, seriously, it's been great speaking to you. I'm so glad that we made this happen.
Oh, I'm stoked. Yeah, I'm pretty jacked up. I have to go chill out.
Okay. Well, listen, this won't come out in time for your show on Sunday, but it'll be out for the next show at least. And best of luck to you, and I hope to see you on Sunday.
All right, right on. Yeah, come say hi if you do, please.
Absolutely, I will.
Thanks a million, James.
No problem, man. It's great talking to you.